from the bottom, you know, and that you don't have it. No, for example, like I feel like a guy like, for example, like someone like Paulo Miao, for example, would be far more dangerous playing guard in the gi than no gi.
And you can see here we've got the brackets. We've got one more match in our quarterfinals. We have, I mean, probably the biggest age disparity between two competitors in this entire bracket here, Robert.
Absolutely. And Cyborg, fan favorite. By the way, if you've never met Cyborg, one of the nicest guys, one of the most approachable guys in all of jiu-jitsu. This guy has gone all the way to the top, the pinnacle of the sport, and has never changed. I've known him for many years. Definitely fan favorite.
Victor Hugo, just over 20 years old, and he is an emerging talent. Just received his black belt after a very dominant career at brown belt. But as we mentioned, just a big age disparity between these two, and just an experience, a massive experience disparity, as well as, you know, Roberto Cyborg up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Veteran.
I'm going to go with Cyborg as a favorite here. Experience, probably overall better grappler, but like you can't discount these guys. They just got their black belts, man. Like the difference is not, like, oh, this guy's been a black belt 10 years longer or 15. That doesn't mean that much when it comes to high level competition, guys. Like, it comes down to the thing that when you're just getting your black belt, you're at very, very close to your prime, you know. And nice Cyborg getting on top here.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised that Victor was so happy just going bottom there. Yeah, gave him the 2. Yeah. 2 points there. Cyborg. He removed it.
They took those points back. I was gonna say that would have been a rookie mistake. I would say from Hugo to go to guard off of that shot of Cyborg to give him and gift him those 2 points.
Tyler, I could be wrong, but I think the referees have a new system they're trying out where they actually have the head ref with the replace system. They just watched They just watched that replay of that takedown, and the head ref with the replay said, no, that was not takedown. But I think that's what just happened because 2 of the refs gave the points. Am I correct, Tyler?
Yeah, I believe you're right. And the way that he had grasped his earpiece there, it kind of signaled to me that that's what had happened. And I really like that, Robert, because I think that there's a lot of times in jiu-jitsu where spectators or even coaches will look at things and say, you know, well, that was a subjective call, or, you know, this ref or that ref. But I think with the ability to go back and look at the replays, you can say, okay, we were able to take a look at this.
Advance with the times. Like when these rules were created, right, you couldn't go back, but there was no cameras were not readily available. It was difficult to rewind and watch again. But now everyone can just rewind in like 3 seconds and watch it again, and you have, you know, people with that ability to analyze a situation, that controversial situation, in more depth, and then they can go, it was points, or no, it wasn't points. So this is a much better system. IBJJF just keeps getting better. I think that the 3 ref system is a huge improvement, and now watching the replays, I think the tendency is to be more and more fair, less room for controversy, because the other time that people are complaining about points or people don't fully understand the rules. That's like every ref's biggest peeve. Tyler, you can ask any ref, is like people complaining and without really understanding the rules. And the ref's like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Stop complaining. Which is a good point. Like, it does happen a lot.
And jiu-jitsu is that rare sport where there's not many other sports that you can compete in and not really fully understand the rules. And I would say that happens quite often in jiu-jitsu.
Well, the majority of cases. I had Bushisha tell me once that he didn't fully understand the rules. The greatest IBJJF competitor of all time doesn't really fully understand, because they're very complicated and they change. You have to be, if you're not doing referee courses, if you're not keeping up with the changes, I recommend all competitors go on their website and reading those rules inside out every time they compete. Spend an hour or 2. Every time you go on there and read it, you're going to learn something new. It's going to make you a better competitor.
And a nice pass attempt here by Roberto Cyborg, who's been pretty aggressive here on top.
Really close to that half guard a few times. Referees did not give him an advantage, didn't consider it close enough to a pass, which is the criteria. You can technically be in half guard, but if there's no danger of passing, then they're not going to consider it an advantage. So that's why this score is even. Cyborg had 2 points taken away from him earlier in this fight. You know, split there, but like with the replay system, we know that it's the head refs know best. But Cyborg's a very difficult guy to sweep here. Even I think if once he starts, you know, switching gears towards the end of the fight here, I think it's going to be difficult for Victor Hugo to, you know, play guard with Cyborg. Very aggressive on top.
Yep. and working into a leg. And, right before I saw this, my first thought was the times that I've seen Roberto Cyborg swept have really been from attacks on his legs.
Yeah.
And Victor Hugo has some good leg lock attempts. He's actually a very well-rounded guy, but I was a little surprised to see him early in the match just to concede the top position to Roberto Cyborg, knowing that he's got some pretty good standing judo, some Greco-Roman, but maybe just felt like this was the path forward in this match for him.
Absolutely. You have Cyborg representing Fight Sports, his own team out of Miami. Victor Hugo representing Ribeiro Jiu-Jitsu. You can see Victor Doria in Cyborg's corner and Saulo Ribeiro in Victor's corner. As you mentioned, Victor just turned 20, just got his black belt. That's scary, man. He's going against one of the best grapplers of all time, and halfway in, the score is even. This kid's definitely got a lot of potential. Someone to watch out for in the future.
I remember the first time seeing him was actually commentating a match of his, and we were far away, and so we were just seeing him on the screen. And I remember thinking, "Hey, this is a young guy. You could tell just by looking at him." And then meeting him in person and just seeing how big he is, and saying, "Wow, this is a big kid." Is he defending the guard pass here for Roberto Cyborg?
Let's see if he can hold.
Nice inversion here.
I'm giving an advantage for that. I wonder if the refs are going to give it.
He was not able to force him to turtle, but he did force him to invert there as he tried to work a little bit of tornado guard.
I'm with the ref on that advantage there. He didn't give it though. Score is still even. You heard, like, you see that signal when he touches his earpiece. It's not because he's trying to hear better. It's a signal that it's being corrected because the replay and the head ref decided it was an advantage. So this is.
And for those at home that may be looking at this, Robert, and saying, well, maybe it's a subjective call, and once again, Cyborg jumping past the guard of Victor Hugo.
Yeah. And that's Cyborg. He's got, anyone who's trained or fought Cyborg knows his pressure is ridiculous, and he moves very well, especially for someone his age. He's got to be approaching 40, moving like that, and having that sort of agility and pressure. That's huge.
And Robert, having been a guy that has competed as a young man, and as you've gotten older, there's a difference between when you're young and when you're old in terms of strength, right? And so Cyborg, people joke around all the time about old man strength, but there's a difference between having that maturity of grappling years and years and years, and still being
there's
early
that
20s.
I think that strength-wise, there's no advantage or disadvantage with age. I think it's the same. It's the agility that changes. It's the reflexes, the recovery, the ability to push, train hard every day. Those are the things that really change. But that's like a snowball effect, right? Whereas when you're young, you're like Wolverine, man. Like nothing hurts. You just get hurt in the gym. Next day you're back in and like nothing happened. Cyborg there, like moving. Good butterfly guard there by Victor Hugo. I could really keep Cyborg at bay. And yes, just under 3 minutes left. Cyborg up by 2 advantages. And Victor's got like a super tough mission ahead of him, sweeping one of the best grapplers of all time.
Cyborg nearly passed the guard there, and actually looking at that arm there for a moment.
I think Victor Hugo's mistake this fight was pulling guard, or just I wouldn't have. I think that he had a better shot. Like maybe he's just uncomfortable on his feet. I don't know Victor Hugo that well. I've seen him compete very few times, but
and he's a late replacement. I think to mention here as well. I think Victor Hugo, I don't think until this week had accepted the position inside of this bracket, and he's actually penalized here for pulling guard without a grip. He had actually stood back up and sat down.
No, they gave the penalty to Cyborg.
Oh, Cyborg.
I wonder if he touched the face. Disengaging? Okay. Because maybe you can get a penalty for touching the face. Maybe he touched his face instead of the forehead. And that right there could be a penalty. But yeah, probably disengaging.
The referee had motioned for them to come together, and I actually had thought that was because Victor Hugo had sat down, but I think it was because Roberto Cyborg had walked away and sort of motioned for him to stand up.
Yeah, Hugo's really got to switch. He's kind of like calling Cyborg out when he does that. It's kind of like, I call that the equivalent of like putting your hands down in boxing. It's kind of like asking your opponent, come on, bring it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hugo's got to really try something different. The guard thing wasn't going to work. He's really got to try to take Cyborg down. If he takes him down, he wins.
Yeah, like there's a minute 17 left.
Right. In fact, I probably would have stood up sooner. Like I would have stood up like a lot early in this fight if I were him. and that's his best chance right now is get very aggressive. And yeah, I wouldn't have pulled. But it's going to be hard to sweep Cyborg, man.
Yeah. Once again, he's going to need to try to get into these legs. And I think the history of this match has shown us that Cyborg has been winning these battles from this position exactly that way. And now he's going to actually establish the side control here.
Nothing yet. It's so hard to hold Nogi.
Yeah.
Another advantage. And, yeah, Victor's out of options here. 40 seconds left. He's got maybe another takedown attempt or two. And Cyborg, very experienced. You got to remember how long this guy's been competing for, at the highest level.
Yeah. And Cyborg just shucks that shot off from Victor Hugo. Yeah, and it's really hard to shoot on an opponent with short time like this when they're aware that you're just going to take these disparate shots that you don't really have the time to set up anymore.
But like this is good for Victor, Mike. This is, like you said, he's a replacement. This guy just got his black belt. He's very young, and he went against one of the best competitors of all time. And he hung in there, man. He lost by advantage. He got Tiger was just too much for him to handle. But I think this gives him a lot of homework for the future, Tyler. I think that Victor Hugo is going to go back home. He's going to watch this fight, and I think the wrestling will be the key for him. I think that, just got out, Cyborg was just too much for him.
Yeah.
Too smart, too experienced.
This match looked like a veteran competitor going up against somebody during the rookie campaign. And I think, Victor Hugo, we have not seen the best of him just yet. And, to his credit, he is the last-minute fill-in for Yuri. That's who I was trying to think of earlier. He's filling in for Yuri Chamois, who is... who unfortunately had to bow out. I believe due to injury, but don't quote me on that. I know he had to pull out at the last minute. Yeah, and I think if you were to compare and contrast that against versus the Gi, I think you would see maybe something a little bit different, and I think it speaks to the point